Wednesday, March 18th. I'm waiting for him to start. This Wednesday, March 18, 2026, it is 7 p.m. Finance for the town of Madison is now in session. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Flag, United States of America,
Republic,
Republic, which stands, nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 18, 2026. Matt, and that's second by Jude. Is there any amendments?
I have one on page 2. It has the reporting on the Board of Ed. I'm assuming it was the wrong Bob. It has me down as reporting on the Board of Ed, and I don't intend to deal with meetings.
Okay, we'll look at it.
It's just,
Just correct it.
yeah, just correct it.
Any other?
So who reports on the Board of Ed? I'm sorry.
I'm the liaison. Paul saying it.
Yeah,
you
just
said-
look at the minutes.
I don't think anybody reported on that.
I didn't either. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Just trying to give you credit for something you didn't do, Bob.
I'm
The
fine with that. I'll take all the credit I can get.
fact that I think all it was is there's no one reported was fine.
Okay.
Any other corrections? No, thanks. Motion approved the minutes as amended. Bob Arthur, according to BOE. All in favor, say aye.
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 Extension and motion carries. Chair's comments. I know we've done a lot of the budget. We've got a little bit more work to do. I also have another. I want to be clear. Any board member here has the right to ask for information from an employee. The only request I'm going to make, and this goes for both sides, is that you notify the employer cost. So in this case would be the first select woman. So CC her, and if it's on the Board of Ed side, CC Crane. Because I do work for them, and I will tell you this, I'm probably the biggest offender. I probably have emailed the finance director more than once without, but I do think just, it's not asking permission, it's not anything, like just CC, let Peggy know or Craig, all the CC him on email, but I want the board, I think, Stacey, I'm gonna talk to Peggy, because it's the Board of Finance, I think we ask you questions a lot. And I will be the first one to tell you, I have failed to CC Peggy in some instances. So, but, you know, for right now, just ask you to CC Peggy and or Craig. Please don't stop asking questions. Please don't stop asking. That's not the intention here. Okay?
So, yeah,
Question.
yeah, I'll see you. But if I ask, and I've done this, I'm guilty of this many times. I've gone to Stacy or Kristen and say, I don't understand this particular item of the budget. Should we notify Peggy every time we?
Well, I think that's what I want. I think in the instance of this, for Stacy and Kristen, I think for right now, don't, because we just interact so much. But for everybody else, if I were to ask,
Health Department.
Health Department, yes, I think it's just, hey, I want to meet with, yeah, we should see myself included, but for Stacy, I mean,
Yeah.
we constantly.
It works for y'all. Yeah.
So unless Peggy has an objection on those, we'll just leave it as it has been, because I have to notify Peggy in that instance. But for anybody else, you know, we should just see her on email, not asking permission with CC. Okay. All right. Finance member comments. I'm going to start with John R. up virtually, and we'll work our way across. So Bob, that means you'll be last. Okay. John.
No, I was excited to see that we're going to be taking up the OPEB trust. So I'll save my comments for that. It's been a long time coming, so hopefully we can get something done tonight on that angle. Thank you.
John, Bob Mark.
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. I'm probably the reason for your point about seeing bosses. I followed up on some of the citizen comments from the last meeting, particularly about Department Point. director you just wanted to close the loop on. So I spoke with Rob and I have 4 points just to report back. Hopefully that should close out most of those issues. The first one was, I'm not going to go through what the questions were. I'm just going to say what the current state is. All the work in Garden Point was inspected throughout the process and the final inspection was completed on in May of 26. And those reports have not been provided to the town yet, but they are pending as part of a final package.
The inspection was done May.
The final inspection was done in May.
Right.
The hazardous material that was reported on the beach after the storm was storm related, and most probably part of the old wall. There was nothing from the new wall that was taken off and laid on the beach, and all of that has been removed as part of the repairs that were done. All of the work was performed to standards. The damage was storm related and limited to the old wall, and in particular, it's garfing, anything. I forget the word, from the water that gets behind the wall and it strips everything out. So it's pretty much all limited to the old wall, no damage to the new wall. The only point there was that looks like there was an interface between the old and the new wall, the 6 inches of poured concrete that was connected with steel or metal rods that I think suffered some damage. It's interesting to note that the new wall is down, has footings that go down 20 feet. The old wall, not really sure, but maybe like 5 feet. So there's a significant difference between the two walls. And the last part, I'm not sure if it was part of the comments, but the storm repair that was just concluded included improvements to the revetment, which are the rocks piled up against the wall. So that it brings all points. I guess there were some points that may have been outside of code. Code is 4 feet. All points are now at 4 feet or better. Some is up as high as 3 feet from below the cement cap that's on the wall. So just wanted to close the loop on it.
Thank you very much. Thanks, very helpful. Any other comments?
I do have a question on that. Later. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy in town about this and some excitement. Is it safe for us to say officially as a town, both board select board finance, wherever, that the work that was done to code, and there's no reason for us to expect that there's some liability to be expected?
I
would say, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I would say from what I know, there's no deep inspection requirement. That was just a grant. That's all about the environment. The town land use building requirement would be focused on ADA, accessibility, things like that. So there's no inspection there. The other inspections were done by the construction, the outside engineer that was hired to do those. And that is about the building of the wall itself. And he was referencing that there's code related to walls without railings and how far down, and it should be 4 feet. So the wall goes out, it drops down 2 or 3 feet. There's a sitting area, and then it goes down again. So it's, I think it's a minimum of 3 to 4 feet now. And the code is 4 feet. I don't know what all the codes are. I just asked.
Yeah. No, but to the best of our knowledge.
That's not
It was a final inspection that was done.
Final inspection was done.
My take is, if I was a private person and I had this wall built and I paid for it, there does not seem to be any opportunity or any fault to be blamed that I would be able to collect on in terms of
Not that I'm
liability.
aware of.
Yeah.
It's a good
Okay.
it's a question. Maybe we want to ask the town attorney.
The problem
Yeah.
it has is an old wall and a new wall.
Yeah.
And like you just mentioned, the old wall went down 4 foot, footage were only 4 feet or 5 feet or 6 feet, 7 feet, but the new one's 20 feet. So that's part of that is, and I get to defend the public and defend everybody else, you're looking at that and all of a sudden, but if you had the outside engineer do the inspection,
Yeah.
that's what they're paid for. Unless if they found something, it should have brought the mayor's attention, without question.
That's all I'm saying is that, we've done due diligence and we don't have a case. He's an unfortunate event, basically.
Anything else? Bob, anything else?
No, that's a good thought.
Dude, you have anything?
I've had no meetings, liaison meetings since we last met. You know,
Matt, I'm gonna go to you, boy.
Yeah, so with the Madison ambulance company that we have, so I was talking with Russell Pearson, they have. There's technology that's in the dispatcher's office, and so when an emergency call comes in, and it's for a medical call, that it automatically, at the time, automatically alerted the Madison ambulance. The lights would turn on, lights in the bunks, bunk room would turn on, an alert would go off to wake everybody up. Unfortunately, in October, there was a change in technology. There was upgrades and things like that. And that functionality of the automatic alerting the ambulance isn't there. And so it's been problematic, especially at nighttime when they're asleep. And so Russell is working with Captain York of the police department as a dispatcher's Alder Police. They have an open ticket to fix this, but they haven't had resolution. So question's going to be possibly for us through the board of selectmen at some point is we have to do something to fix this one.
Expedited. Said, we'll get record since October. That was the direct result of the new technology.
Technology upgrade. So it's the same company that they're
You're not
using.
talking to each other.
Correct. So they use Next Gen, it's the vendor. The question is, can Next Gen fix it, or do we have to look for a different vendor? But again, I think that's gonna be board of selectmen, just to let us know that could come down the pipe.
Yeah, it's gotta get fixed. Anything else? Got? Bob?
So yes, I wanted to tell you that the Madison 200, 250 committee is very vibrant and working diligently at trying to find sponsors, volunteers, people who are interested. They have their own website. Very exciting times, a lot of different things going on, coming together tremendously well. And I encourage everyone, if they haven't yet, to go to that site and really see all the things that are happening and that will happen, are planning to happen. The senior commission finally met on March the 10th. And it's amazing how in 30 minutes, how many things are reviewed. It's a wonderful committee, very collective, tons of events available for our senior community. Austin does a tremendous job organizing and getting everyone involved. And so that was a great meeting to go to. They hadn't met since, I want to say, I think November. So they usually take the winter off and then they meet for the rest of the year. Facilities Commission. I was able to attend the meeting that they had on February the 19th. And the meeting itself was about 2.5 hours. It was fairly long. But very comprehensive. And the point of the meeting was really to collect the data that had been gathered by all the volunteers over a long course of time about recommendations about all of the facilities within the town. And while it was a longer meeting, it's very comprehensive in the sense that all the possibilities were brought up. And again, possibilities, thoughts, things that are, maybes that are going on. And it is something that was recorded as well. So I encourage everyone to just watch it and just see all the work that committee has done. Lots of hours of labor gone into doing research for that. So very interesting meeting.
One question on the Madison 200. If any of us are talking to potential sponsors, we just direct them to the website.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Any other comments?
I'll second.
So I have one other thing, and I was going to bring it up, but I am going to. We made changes in the board of selectmen budget, which I think we have every right to do. And because we made changes, we have to have a meeting with. I want to say I disagree with this, but it's part of the charter. So I got a call for someone about. I'm not going to say who, it doesn't matter. About the changes that were made to the Meals on Wheels. Well, we did not stop funding. We are still going to fund it. We just took it out of the operating budget. We put out more money and try to give them some sort of. So what's going to be coming here. There's no comments about the 10,000 done. Didn't see, but there was comments about what we did to Meals on Wheels, I stress that we actually put more money in and try to keep it going. So because, and I think the board of selectmen had a similar conversation about this. I just want to let you know that we will meet. Either it's got to be done before the 31st. So not my choice. And, I do think the Board of Finance, and we do have the final say. We have to meet, they can say, put it back, say no. I just want to let you know. And I'll let you know as soon as that time and date is picked. The select woman did call me. I told her it was a light agenda, so if she wanted to take the night off or do whatever, she'd feel free to do so. Not that she needs my permission, but I did let her know, so she will not be here. Citizens comments, anybody from the public would like to speak?
There's no one online.
Doesn't appear. Second time, third time, somebody from the public information session is closed. Item 7, discuss the action to approve the return of $208,457.47 from CIP residual project balances to the master accountant CNRE fund approved by the Board of Selectmen on March 10, 26. So I get that in a form of a motion. Made by Matt, and second by Bob and John and Bob, or if it is, I'll do it. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, that motion carries. All right, so this is item 8 is discuss OPEB trust, potential fusion into pension. This is not just the OPEB, John, just so you know. I just want to make it clear there's a pension conversations, what we're going to do there. So I know. Terry, I don't know who says, if you want to, Elena wants to speak first, and then for Milliman.
So Elena Pelletier here from Milliman.
Yeah, I see her.
So do you want to share your screen, or Jeannie, do you want to share it?
I can share. I know I have a few different things to show you. I'll just start saying good evening, everyone. I'm going to start with the pension item just because I think that's the shorter discussion item, so we can kind of leave more time for the OPEB discussion. Does that sound good?
Go ahead.
Sure.
Okay. Just trying to work the share. Let me know if you're able to see that. Okay, great. So what Stacy asked me to look at is what impact it would have on the future contributions to the town pension plan if you were to contribute an additional 1 million to the plan above what you're already planning to contribute. And so just to give you some background, the way our calculations work is we perform a valuation of the plan every year, every July 1, and that valuation produces the contribution for the following fiscal year. So just given the timing of when we can do our evaluation and when you need to know, set your budget for the coming year, that's how the cycle works. So the 7/1/2025 valuation produces the contribution for the 26-27 fiscal year. So that valuation has already been complete. So any decisions you're making today, if you were to have an extra contribution in the plan by the following 7/1, which would be 7/1/2026, that would first impact your contribution for the 27-28 fiscal year. So what we're looking at on the screen is a projection of what the contributions will be for the next 15 years. And, this is given a number of assumptions. So assuming, the asset return is exactly as we expect and members retire as exactly as we expect. So this isn't a crystal ball. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it's a helpful tool, especially when you're looking at, two scenarios side by side. So all of the assumptions in the two scenarios are the same. So we're having, an apples to apples comparison. The only difference here is that in this forecast on the right-hand side, there's an extra $1 million in the plan. So you can see that the contributions starting 27-28 are about 100,000 or 150,000 lower than they would otherwise be. And I'm also showing the funded status here, so you can see that extra contribution increases the funded status from our projected 73% to 76%. And then the way the funding works is the way we calculate the contribution is meant to bring the plan to 100% funded status. So either way, assuming all of our assumptions are correct, you get to the 100% funded status. You just have smaller contributions along the way to get there.
Okay. Questions on that? John, if you have a question, if you're not on the screen, just shout it out. I won't find
No,
it.
I was just going to say, well done, Yelena. Completely. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yep. So it's, pay me now, pay me later. That's the pension.
Yep. That's exactly what it gets down to. Yep.
I can't see all the numbers from here, but it seems like
I can,
reached the last column, there's 73, 76%. Does that imply that we're behind? We're behind.
You're not sure being funded. I know you're going to answer it, but then I'm going to answer it my way, but go ahead.
so you're currently 73.7% funded. I wouldn't call that behind. There's quite a range of funded statuses if you look at pension plans across the state and across the country. You're not the best, but you're not the worst. And I know you're working, you're making the required contributions. So, that's the important part, is that you are making the contributions that will over time bring, and in a reasonable amount of time, bring you to 100% funded status.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair,
Mhm.
Yelena, I think it's fair to say one would, for governments, 80% is kind of a benchmark out there that says, hey, if you're 80% funded, you're in a good place. And to answer John Muller's question, we have about $65 million in liabilities. We have about $47 million in present value assets to cover that. So we're about $17 million short, is really what it comes down to.
So John brought up the 80% funded. I think there's probably a lot of towns and cities that are not 70% funded. And I do think this pension is pretty much gone by not many people left in it. So the fact that we're going to contribute possibly more money, we're over 70% funded. And again, this is a projection. I understand that, but we may reach 100%, 15 years. I think it's incredible. So I'm not worried about the 73% at all. I know there was times not that long ago, a lot of places were under 50%. So just my 2 cents on that. But John, technically, you're right. How's that?
No, like I said, I think it's kind of a standard out there in the industry. 80% is viewed as a healthy plan, if you will.
A question to John Rasmus. I assume the 47 million number that you mentioned that we have currently that in present value against the 60 some odd million that we are obligated for, that does not include any kind of return on that. In other words, there's no calculation or allowance for dividend interest to that. No, what I mean, we have 47 now, our future obligations is 60. We have,
as you
basically the future value. Right.
Mhm.
Right.
As Yelena mentioned, I mean, these are just estimates. You have a expected rate of return. The odds of hitting it right on the head are probably pretty remote, but that's the best guess. You don't know how long people are going to work until they retire. You don't know how long they're going to live, but the actuaries, that's what they're paid for, is to come up with these numbers with, I guess, best guess estimate. And
Exactly.
like I said, if you take that 47 and compare it against the 64, that's how you get to the 73.7% that were funded. But I think we're going to get to the bigger discussion is we haven't touched OPEB yet. So
I had a question. I was going to have a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, question for Elena and John Rasmus. So getting to that 80% benchmark, does that make us look more favorable for credit score bonding?
well, I think 73.7, Yelena, correct me if I'm wrong, would not be seen as a plan in distress, but I think it's
Correct.
fair to say that, yeah, Wall Street likes to see 80%.
I don't want to disagree. I mean, Wall Street, I mean, the biggest thing the bondholders want is that you pay your bonds. You can talk about everything else, but that's what they want. Whether it's 73%, I mean, we're already in triple rated bonds. So I just want to say it this way, if we were to contribute more money to the pension, I would be doing it because it would be lowering our impact on the EDC. You know, that's why I would do it. So if we were going to put $1 million in and say, okay, because it's only 76% funded, we still want to contribute more, I would not be in favor of that. I just want to be clear that I'm not worried with a 73% funded pension.
What would it cost us, just assume that we would do it, what would it cost to go to 80%?
You have the numbers there. I mean, you probably have to pump in another three, four.
We would get there in 4 years.
Oh, okay, I thought, all right, I thought that was a cumulative,
Well, it is, but if you said, you know, I did, it's only 3 or 4 years before you get to 80%, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
the value of money would be small.
but in terms of total dollars, it looks like it'd be about $350,000 or $400,000. If I'm looking at that.
You get the 80%?
Okay.
No.
30 million.
Or you gotta add the comps.
An extra $1 million.
Well, John, what's your hesitancy for if we have the ability to put it into this? Why not?
Because there's other things you can use the money for. This, to me, is a healthy funded pension. I've seen much more, may have other things. He mentioned OPEB, but probably find a lot of other things. We had limitless supply of money after funded. But only so much, this undesignated fund balance everybody wants to spend is only gonna go so far. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, in our rating agency calls, this 73% has not been an issue on our score.
Yes, yeah.
I've been there where it's 50% not being, so it's different. 70% is good, 80% is bad. Well, that's why not. Any other questions on the pension before we get to, John R wants to get to the OPEB? Okay. Elaine, you're back, you're up.
All right. Let me find that and share it. Okay. OPEB funding. So I'm going to talk about the concept in general first, and then I'm going to show you some details about your plan in particular. So this is, I find, a good place to start. And this applies to your pension as well. And in fact, a lot of these funding concepts that we're going to talk about are very similar to the pension plan. So just starting with this fundamental formula. The numbers on the right, the benefits you're going to end up paying along with the expenses that you might pay from the plan. That's going to be what it's going to be, right? We can't change that. The way you change that is by changing the plan provisions themselves. So that amount is what it is. How you pay for those benefits, there's 2 sources of where the funds could come from to pay for the benefits. One is city contributions, and the other one is investment income. So just like we were just talking about the pension plan, you have assets invested. We're assuming that they earn a certain amount of return, and over the long term, you're about hitting that. So that investment income is obviously being used to pay the benefits. So this is kind of our fundamental formula to keep in mind. But currently, there's no assets for this plan. So there's no investment income. So you're just paying benefits as they come due. Essentially, the benefits are equal to your contributions. Whatever you paid that year, that's essentially what you contributed to the OPEB plan. Kind of went in and out immediately, right? So when we talk about pre-funding, we talk about setting up a trust similar to your pension trust, having assets that are set aside exclusively for paying benefits in this plan, investing those assets and earning income on that money. So what is the advantage of doing that? So number one, kind of like I just set up with that fundamental formula, is having investment returns. Now, to the extent you have investment returns, the town contributions would be lower. So that's number one. Number two is some budget stability. When we calculate that actuarially determined contribution, the way we do for pension, for example, there's a series of smoothing mechanisms that go into that calculation. So for example, we don't use the market value of assets, we use a smoothed actuarial value of assets. So that helps offset the bumps in the market. You know, assets go up and down, but a smooth value kind of lessens the volatility having to do with that. So you get some stability. Instead of just paying claims, you have a bad claims year, a good claims year. There's some smoothing that happens in the mechanism that produces your contribution. And also there's this concept of generational equity, where you want your taxpayers paying for benefits of the currently active members as opposed to members that are currently retired and might have received benefits under a structure that existed, you know, decades ago. And there's also credit rating considerations, but you know, you're already AAA rated community, so this isn't really a concern for you, but it does, you know, it looks better when you have a funded OPEB trust. So those are the advantages. Another aspect to be aware of is when you do have a funded OPEB plan, the interest rate that we use in calculating your liabilities is based on an expected return. So again, similar to the pension, your town plan based on how your assets are allocated, we expect that in the long term, that fund is going to return 6.75%. So when we calculate the liability for that pension plan, that's the rate that we use to discount the expected benefits. So the higher the rate, the lower the liability. With an unfunded plan, we use a municipal bond rate, which is typically significantly lower than a funded plan rate. So with a lower interest rate, you get a higher liability. So just another way, again, of capturing that idea that there aren't investment returns that are paying for part of the benefit cost. And the chart here is just showing the historical spread between an expected return on a funded plan versus a municipal bond rate. They happen to be fairly close now just because bond rates are so high, but I would say that's more an anomaly. Usually there's more like a 200 basis point spread between the two. Any questions so far? Oh. Okay, keep going. So what are the challenges with funding an OPEB plan? So volatility is a big one. OPEB benefits are more volatile than pension. You know, pension plan, maybe salaries go up a little more than expected. Maybe retirees live a little longer than expected. That causes kind of small changes in your liability. On the health insurance side, you know that claims are very volatile. Premiums, when you think of Medicare premiums, they could increase, you know, double digits from one year to the next. So there's just more volatility in an OPEB plan than a pension plan. And you do still have volatility from investments similar to pension, and again, from census experience. People living longer than you expect, you know, people electing coverage at a rate other than what we expected. That can cause volatility on the liability side. And of course, like you just said, you have competing budget priorities. You don't have an unlimited budget, so there's other things that are competing for this money that could go into the OPEB plan. If you do decide to transition to pre-funding the OPEB plan, what would that look like? So what we often do is we phase into funding the plan instead of going straight to paying our full actuarially determined contribution. We can set up a plan where you're, you know, phasing it in over a number of years. So that's what this incremental funding strategy is. You will have administrative expenses, so that's something to be aware of. Similar to what you have on the pension side, there'd be some attorney's fees to set up the trust. You know, your investment consultant might charge you more to add this plan to the pension plans that they consult on. You know, there might be some additional actuarial fees, audit fees, custodian fees, etc. So there is that cost associated with having a trust and a funded plan. Then there's also the logistics of how you pay your healthcare costs now that you have a trust. So when you first set up this trust, you're kind of in the asset accumulation phase. There's really not going to be enough money in it to start paying benefits from the plan directly immediately. So you're going to continue to pay benefits and claims as they come due from your current medical fund. And then you'll also be funding this OPEB trust at the same time. At some point, when there's enough assets in the trust, you're going to switch to paying those benefits from the trust, similar to how you pay your pension benefits. Sometimes the logistics of that can be tricky because a trust may not be set up to pay claims, and there are mechanisms to essentially pay it from your current accounts and reimburse those accounts from the trust. You'll just need to be able to isolate your retiree medical costs so you know how much to reimburse yourself. So those are just kind of some logistics to be aware of. When we talk about OPEB funding, a question I get often is, well, what are others doing? What are others in Connecticut doing? Who else is funding? This is, I would say, a relatively recent phenomenon that maybe when GASB 75 came out, municipalities kind of became more aware of the fact that their OPEB plans are as much a liability as their pension plans. So in 2010, about 17% of municipalities were pre-funding their OPEB plans. That number has been growing and it's at about 50% as of 2024. Some of these, there are municipalities that kind of set up the trust but are not contributing to it regularly, so they're not truly pre-funding. But there is a significant number of municipalities that do have a funded OPEB trust. So that is kind of the general comments. Now, looking specifically at your plan, and I think this is helpful to understand the dynamics of the groups that are in the plan, what the benefits are, what the liabilities look like. So your plan covers both Board of Education employees as well as town and police employees. On the police and town side, it's only employees that were hired prior to a certain date that are eligible to receive these OPEB benefits. So we call that a closed group, meaning nobody else can come into this plan from the town and police side. Excuse me. Now that doesn't mean that there's no liability for those groups because even someone who retires, at 55 could still collect benefits for many years from the plan. And on the Board of Education side, it is completely open to new members. Those Board of Education members are covered up to age 65 and they pay the full premium. But note that just because they pay the full premium doesn't mean that there's no cost for them. And we'll talk about that a little more later. And also, it's worth noting that we don't assume that everyone will elect to have coverage in this plan because based on the experience, they do not. Not everyone who retires from Madison elects to participate in this plan. They might have coverage through a spouse or elsewhere. So we do make an assumption about what percent will elect to participate at retirement. We currently, if we were to calculate an actually determined contribution, we can allocate it between the town and the Board of Ed so that you would know how much each of those groups would need to contribute. So to give you an idea of the membership in the plan, this table is showing you by status and by group. So the police, there's only 2 active members left, but there's 17 retirees with 11 spouses. For the town, there's 24 eligible members left with 7 retirees and 5 spouses. On the Board of Education side, it's a much bigger group as far as actives, but very few retirees and spouses. So those are the member counts. So you might be wondering, well, what does that look like in terms of liability? So that's what this next page is showing you. And these liabilities are calculated at a 5.2 discount rate, which is the bond rate as of July 1, 2025. So our latest valuation, the unfunded rate was 5.2. So you can see that police has a fair number of liability, even though those counts were small. And that's because the members don't pay for the coverage. The town pays the full cost. So 6 million out of the 11 liabilities for the police, a small chunk for the town, and then the rest is primarily Board of Ed certified employees. All right, so I mentioned that, this is a common comment that I get. Well, those Board of Education members, they're paying the full cost. So why is there even any liability for them? And that's due to this concept that we call the implicit rate subsidy. So when we say they pay the premium, that means that some amount that perhaps your broker has calculated to be, or maybe it's the COBRA premium, you've calculated some estimate of what the annual cost for this benefit is, and that's what you charge them. That premium or allocation rate is based on both your active and retiree population. And what we know about healthcare costs is that they go up with age, right? That's this blue wave. So this is the true cost. It varies by age, but everyone's paying this black line. Your actives and your retirees. Actives are paying some percentage of this. The retirees in this group that we're talking about pay this full amount, but this excess, these are your retirees here, the 55, the 60-year-olds. There is still a cost associated with them because they're not really paying the full cost of their coverage. And if you want to see that numerically, retirees premium is about 11, 13,000, but what we expect a 60-year-old male retiree to really cost is more like 19 or 23,000. And lastly, I wanted to show you the projected benefit payments from the plan, since you're looking into the future and kind of thinking about how much this plan is going to cost. Blue is the town police, green is Board of Ed. So you can see the town and police is going to decrease a little bit over time. And if we were to go out longer, you would see that eventually tail off, whereas the Board of Ed costs increase somewhat because medical claim costs are expected to grow over time. So that's all I had for the presentation. I also have a model where we can look at phasing in that contribution and look at some numbers, but I thought I would pause here and see if there's questions or discussion at this point. Go ahead, John.
Mr. Chair, Elena, $11 million. Are you going to have some projections that say we should put some money in now and then every year commit to something? Or
Yes, would you like to go to that now?
Wait, and see if they have any questions yet, and then you
Okay.
can go. Can I piggyback on that, John Moore? Thank you. That was a good presentation. I appreciate it. The 11.4, 11.5 million, is that the present value of what our expected total liabilities will be for the entire plan?
Yes, the total liability, which is kind of the present value of future benefits that are expected to be paid from this plan, is the 11.4 million here.
So if we could close the plan right now and fulfill our obligations, we would have to come up with $11.4 million.
You would be 100% funded. That's our estimate. Like if you think of that right-hand side of the equation, the benefits are going to be what they're going to be. If you had 11.4 million now, then that's our estimate of how much this plan will cost. Yes, but
Great. Thank you.
Just to add to that, that's sitting right on our balance sheet. If you look at the statement of net position, you'll see that it doesn't show on our budget side, but it does show on our government-wide statements as a liability. So it's a real thing. And my concern is, we keep talking about we have $20 million. We don't have $20 million. We think we have 6 or 7, but we just saw that there's $11 million sitting out there that we would have to fund today because the liability is going to be more than 11. It's the present value of that liability.
Mhm. And because there are still active members in this plan, as you have new people come in, they will have a liability, additional liability. This is just for current members.
Any other questions on this here? I mean, obviously, there's other negotiation, that the employees pay more too, and that goes through contracts, and I don't know how the contracts there work. Sometimes it works where the retiree has to pay, no, if the employee's paying 2% more, the retiree has to pay 1% more. I don't know the contracts this town as well as that should, but, any other comments on the presentation so far? Okay, Elaine, I'm sure you got some scenarios there.
Yep, I have some numbers. Can you see the numbers? I'm not sure of how I shared that, if you're able to see it.
So the old,
Okay, let me unshare and share again. I think that's how I can get there. Okay, I think that should do it. All right. Okay, so what we're looking at here is first, each column is a year in the future. So this is a projection. Bigger? Yes.
Good.
Good.
Yes. They're
Okay.
good. Done.
Okay. So first, let's go through how we calculate our actuarially determined contribution, what the pieces are that go into that calculation. First, we have a payment towards that unfunded accrued liability. So, you have a liability. Right now you have no assets, but if you had a liability and some assets, there'd be a difference between those two numbers. That would be the unfunded accrued liability. You're not paying all of that at once. You're paying that over a number of years. So think of it as kind of like taking out a mortgage over a number of years, and then you have a payment towards that mortgage every year. That's this past service cost number. And we can structure that payment in different ways. You can pay that off over a number of years. I've put in 20 as kind of a starting point. You can have that amount have a growth rate. I don't recommend that for this plan, so I started that with a 0% growth rate. But you can see if I varied this amount, the amount of the amortization payment would vary accordingly. So I'll put that back to 20%. 20 years. So that's the first piece. That's the past service cost. And before actually I get too far, I should mention that the accrued liability here is lower than the 11 million we were looking at before, right? And that's because we're now using a higher interest rate. So going back to what I started the presentation with, if the plan is funded, we can use a higher interest rate. So I've assumed that the assets will be invested similar to how your pension plan assets are invested. So I'm using a similar interest rate. So we have our liability, we're amortizing that. And then the second piece of the calculation of the contribution is the normal cost, which is the value of benefits accruing for active employees. That would be another 125,000, and you actually do have police members contributing a small percent of their pay towards the plan. So that acts as an offset. So we add the past service cost, the net normal cost. We do an interest adjustment to account for the fact that this contribution is being made a year later, and we get your actuarially determined contribution. Now, if you also recall at the beginning of my presentation, I said the funds you're paying now, the pay-as-you-go claim costs and premiums, are essentially contributions to this plan. So you're already paying money every year towards the plan, so you get credit for that. So you're essentially already making some of that $1 million contribution. This is our expected medical costs, pay-as-you-go costs. So it's the difference that you now need to contribute. You're already contributing this amount. This is the ADC minus your pay-go costs gets you this additional contribution. And that's what you can phase into. Excuse me. So right now I have that phasing in over 4 years. So in this model, I've assumed you've started with 500,000. That's another input. You know, on 7/126, you have some amount of money in there. And then going forward, these would be your future contributions in addition to the amounts you're paying now. Questions on that?
Would it be easy to determine if we put in $1 million now, what the annuals would be?
Yes, very easy. Go down a little bit.
Stacy?
So if I could just highlight one thing, so in the pension, the annual or the actuarial determined contribution, that's what we budget every year in the general fund. But what we're doing here is we're taking out the actual claims for these retirees that are paid out of our health insurance fund. So they're not hitting our budget, they're coming out of our health insurance fund, we're budgeting a different. So they're part of our claims when we talk about our other issue of health benefits. So the difference of what we're paying out of there, subtract that amount coming out of the health insurance fund, out of the ADC, that's the additional amount that we will have to budget in our general fund. In addition to that, Elena said in the beginning, that amount is both for the town and Board of Ed. So we'll also have to discuss that and how we're going to distribute that. And if we're looking for the Board of Ed to absorb their portion or if the town's going to cover the whole amount.
So, but in simpler terms, right? I'm sorry. It looks like scroll down a little bit, or up with, I want to see the top of the page. So fiscal 28, right? It looks at
Yeah, it's down here, actually. The fiscal year is down here.
fiscal 30 years, you're going to have an additional $250,000-$300,000 in addition to the claims every year going forward.
If you put $1 million in there.
If you put $1 million in now.
We put $1 million in, it'll be 304 at 100% for fiscal year 28.
Yeah, I was at fiscal year 30.
Oh, yeah.
So, my point is, yes, you're gonna have an additional 250 to 300,000 every year going forward, plus. To what point?
But I was gonna ask you, I think this is what I was gonna ask, it's gonna dovetail with that. At some point, if you're putting in, it seems to me like you have two streams of payments right now. You're gonna have payments made for current liabilities, and you're gonna start making a new payment to save a future liability. At what point do we catch up and say, we don't need to pay
20 years.
current liabilities this year in 2040 because you have enough money to do it? Does that happen?
So we talked, Elena and I talked about this yesterday, and her recommendation was once this plan is funded, at least at 50%, we could then take out of our health insurance those claims and start paying it out of the trust fund. So I think that was your recommendation for.
That's right, Stacy. Yep. Yes. So you're not gonna do this. You are gonna use this money eventually, right? You're putting it aside so that you could use it to pay benefits. We just don't want to do it too early, otherwise you're gonna be back where you started. And
250,000, right? What we're saying, you're gonna have about $2.5 billion. And at that point.
so in this projection, as of 7/1/2035, you'd be about 43% funded. So you'd be close to that 50% mark.
So the question becomes. Putting some money in upfront and then having that. And I understand it's a liability, John. I know it's on our balance sheet down. I get that. It's then how do you come up with the additional 300,000, 250,000 a year on top of?
So you're
Because it's not like you're saying, okay, we have. And I know this is what you're asking us to do, right? And I'm sure if you say, okay, we're gonna put $1 million in and our claims are $650 a year, and we're gonna put an additional 100,000 a year, even though that's not something you want, or that's not your guideline, it's more than what we're thinking. You know what I mean? We're putting in $1 million, we're gonna put in a little bit more than we're taking out. We're gonna take us a lot longer, but
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is sort of like CIP for employee benefits, right?
Well,
Is that?
Well, the difference is-
My older, so
you actually owe these employee benefits. CIP, you can kick down them forever, I guess.
good point.
These are contractual.
Save, what we save now, the less the town will have to rely on then current tax revenues to pay these liabilities, which.
It's exactly like the pension trust fund,
Yeah.
exactly.
Interesting.
So what I love about this though is that it makes it sustainable. Yes, we will have to pay that each year going forward, but we have to start somewhere.
And that's what I said now, and I said it in a convoluted way. And with all due respect to everyone here in Galena, we could decide to put $1 million, $2 million in and just say, listen, we're gonna put an extra 100,000. I'm making the number up right now. I talk in my hands.
I know.
Put an extra 100,000 in or 150, depending on how things are. We're gonna do at least this. And I get the ARC, or it's not the ARC anymore, they call it ABC. I understand that, but this way we're making progress, but we're also, it's just a thought that we put in some now or before July 1st and start to do more than what the claims are every year.
Yeah.
So at some point
So-
we'll get to that point.
Sounds like it wouldn't be unreasonable to do all this amount of some amount this year, whether that's $1 million, or whatever. And then each year after do the recommended 150, 200,000 or something in order to continue to build that account. Is that?
Yeah, but I was saying, there may not be the recommended ARC and it's not, and I know probably 50% of towns are somewhat funded. But we can decide, hey, we're gonna do the claims this year were 500,000, we're gonna do an extra 2, right?
Right.
The claims next year are 750, an extra 100.
Mr. Chair?
Hey, John.
Yeah, I would just say I'd really like to stick to something because this is a real liability. It's contractual. I was thinking of a number of 1.1 million to 1.5 to start because we're behind. This should have been done a long time ago. I would have liked to do this before we talked about the current budget, but that didn't happen. And the longer we wait, and I think Elena will confirm this, the longer we wait, the bigger that number gets. And it's just going to take more and more to fund this thing if we stall. So I'd like to get to a set amount. And I think we need to put at least $1 million, if not more, out of our undesignated fund balance, which again, I've been yelling and screaming that it's not sufficient. It's not really what we have out there for current operations. But if we don't start doing something, this is just going to snowball.
Thanks, John. I'm not as concerned about the $1.5 million. I'm concerned if it's like, even if this year we had another 300,000 liability that we had to put in the budget.
Right. And that's what we do for our pension plan. And we should treat this no differently. This is a real thing.
Any other comments? Thanks, Elena. We appreciate it. Nice job. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for me or?
No,
Well,
go ahead, Matt.
just one. So to John Rasmus's comment, Elena, I don't know if your model can do this, but what would be that present value impact if we did not do something for 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, the liabilities wouldn't change, so that projection that or the benefit payments, more importantly, those blue and green bars that I showed you, that's the right-hand side of the equation. That's what we're projecting you're going to pay out. So regardless of whether you set up the trust or not, the benefits are going to be the same. So I don't know if that answered your question.
I think that the number you were showing too was the 11 million, 11.3.
Yes. So that's the liability side. And the only reason that changes when the plan is funded is we use a different discount rate to value those benefits. But otherwise, the 11 million is the liability as of July 125.
Thank you. I guess what I was trying to do, if anybody actually watches this video from the public in the future, just to qualify what John Rasmus had said, that, if we wait longer, it's going to be a large expense.
think,
I
if I can, I think the difference will be if we do develop a trust, now we're earning interest
Well, that's
on
the
that
difference.
money,
It's not
so
the-
that will help mitigate the net, the funding ratio.
Correct. That's the difference.
It's the
This-
difference
isn't that-
now, we
that-
have a
that
higher
liability is gonna
interest rate
change.
that we're-
It's the
The
difference.
exactly. The liability's still there, but now we're earning interest, so our required amount to contribute is less because we're earning.
And hopefully, as Elena said, we says that they're using the rate of 6.75 all the time you hit that, and doing your money's making 6.75. That's
So
all.
let me just follow up. So John Rasmus, so the comment that you made about, I'm gonna paraphrase about kicking the can down down the lane. Just so it's on the record, like you were saying that if we keep waiting to do something like this, it's going to become more costly, right?
Well, I think we're at risk of healthcare costs going up. Obviously, we're going to have new employees into the plan. So I think it's pretty obvious that number will get larger. And as we were saying, if we start funding this, we can gain those 200 percentage points because if we don't fund this thing, then or if we don't fund it properly, we're going to be using that lower rate than what our true investment rate, which again, we could be at 6.5% in our projections. I know that on our pension side, we did much better with that over the past few years. Obviously, that's maybe the last week we can't say that, but overall, at the end of the day, longer term, we do much better with a funded plan.
And I want to beat that. We're going to have a lot more discussion. I would like the mayor to be there too, because we think this is important. I think we're all agreeing we need to do something, but for me, it's putting the money away and that money hopefully earning 6.75% or 7%. Oh, this year probably 15, right? Went back a few years, March of 22, probably lost one. So in the long run, average is 7%. That's where you make it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got to figure out how to save another couple $100,000 on the other side so you can fund this above and beyond your salary. Perfect. That's it. That's it. He's out. Get off. I got to put up with this.
Matt,
All right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for Matt's outburst.
I appreciate that.
Point of order.
All right. Any other
Well,
questions?
a question, if we were to put in money from the undesignated fund, does it also require us then to add an additional contribution this tax year? Or if we just start the funding, the 300,000 extra starts next year?
I think she had it projected going the following year again,
Okay.
and I, Elaine, you can disagree, and I really. And John, I get your point, right? Whenever the ABC is or markets, but we can change that number. And I know towns have done it. Hey, the ARC was X in our pension, but we're only going to put Y because that's where we are right now, or because it was a good year, or because there is that flexibility. Even if you put keep saying ARC, but
Yep, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you start, but even if you say we put at 300,000, we put 150, and there's no penalty for that. We're still putting above and beyond what's going on.
Right, you're not required to contribute the ADC. I mean, at some point, if you're not putting in any significant amount, then we can't really treat this as a funded plan and use that higher interest rate. But whatever you have in there will still be in there, earning interest.
We would put in, because it's two sides, right? It's the claims, right, for or whatever.
Yeah,
Right, so let's say that's 600,000, and every year we put at least seven. I mean, at least it is. We put more. So,
you won't be any worse off than you are, that's for sure. Yeah.
well, and my mind would be better because you put $1.5 million plus
Yeah.
the 250, whatever it is per year.
Yes.
Well, anything's better than zero, and that's what we're doing now.
Here you go, John. We're gonna make it one simple sentence. Now we can go home. All right. Thanks, Elena.
All right.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Elena, thanks so much. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
I'm glad you found it useful. Take care.
Thank you.
She said that with all the, all right. Thank you. We're gonna bring this back up. We'll have some more conversation. I'm sure we'll address this funding in this before July 1, 2026.
which is the recommendation there. I have item 9, discuss and take action to appoint Mahoney Sable, the auditor of the town for Madison for fiscal 26. I get that in the form of a motion. I do have a comment if you can make it, but I'd like a motion. Thank you, Jude. Seconded by John. Is that you? Right.
Yeah, I have a comment as well.
Go ahead. I'll defer to you, and then I'll go ahead, John.
How many years? A great firm. I have always been responsive, very clear. But how many years have we used the firm?
This will be our fourth, so 3 years. We went out to RFP 4 years ago.
And how often do we go off? That was my question, John. How many years have you?
We try to do 5, but I can tell you when we went out to RFP last time, they were the only one who responded.
Really? Wow. Wow. Well, listen, I think it
It's
should go out to RFP every 3 to 5 years, something like the unconscious bias that you get with all, or with any agency.
What was
Is
Who
there,
was our firm? Who was our firm 4 years ago?
It was, I don't think it was CLA yet, it was Bloom Shapiro.
Bloom Shapiro. Okay. Yep.
I am prior employee.
Okay, listen, I just, and there's a lot of buyers, employees for, I can't tell how many audit firms or finance directors in other places, a lot.
is there anything in the bylaws that require us to change?
Really?
No, no,
Is there, like at CMIC, Connecticut Medical Insurance, there's a requirement that no matter how great your auditors were, you had to change auditors.
no, yeah.
Yeah, we did every 3, let's say. We had to go out to bid, you had to change.
There were many charters for when I was an auditor that required you 3 to 5 years, and we don't have that in our charter. But John pushed us
Yes.
3.5 years ago to do it, and we did, and we're very happy. This will be, we've done.
I think in the 5th year,
Years.
she go back on.
So 2 years.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
5 years is kind of a benchmark used out there.
Any other comments or? Even if it's not in the charter, it doesn't have to be charter. Back out.
When you say charter, you mean the POF regulations?
Right.
Or town, not town charter,
Charter.
town charter.
Town charter.
We made it a
That's not been changed.
resolution to make sure, not here, but so anyways, but 5 years is fine. They do a good job. I'm not saying anything in a negative way about the law.
She doesn't have it anymore. It's a lot. Yeah, so to do the RFP alone is a lot. So then, no, it's all good.
Sure, Stacy told you, I'm a pain.
It's all good.
All right, any other, or questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving to appoint Mahoney and Sable for the auditorship of town of Madison for fiscal 26, say aye, or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
The opposed, abstention, that motion carries. Review of the financials. I did see them, Stace, thanks. I did go through them. I didn't have any questions. Projected fund balance sheet says $500,000 and maybe a little bit less than that going for next year. We'll just
I had one question on the operating budget last line. It says budget number 9110 private schools, 300, almost 350,000. What was that for? Wouldn't that be better on the Board of Ed side of the budget?
This is it's a state statute that the town has to fund health services and transportation for private schools within the town. So it's always been on the town side, not.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the finance? Seeing none. Citizens' comments. Gene?
Nope, no one's online.
Oh, wait, I'm a citizen. Go ahead.
Like by chance. I'm Chris Rano, live on Wildcat Road, and I don't have a dog in this race. I'm just here to watch the sausage be made. I want to thank you guys all. I appreciate it. Just to sit down and watch you guys deliberate. I will say, and it's not relevant to anything, but Stacey was mentioning, it's very hard for me not to talk. So it's been excruciating.
Go ahead.
But I just want to get in, and it's probably not apropos of anything, but when you're looking at the OPEB and saying that benefit comes from the interest on the fund, you have to be careful not to disregard the fact that if you didn't spend it, make those annual contributions, that money might also be returned as well. So it's not going to be comparing interest to zero, comparing one return versus And with that, thank you.
Very good point. Any other comments from the public? Second time. Third time. We've done a public information session is closed. I give motion to adjourn, please. Second by Matt, second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Hi, John.
Just so you
know,
know.
we-